Hi guys, Ron Beyer here, Golden Harvest Agronomist for Northwest Iowa. Today is July 16th and as you can tell, I'm standing in a cornfield. I'm actually in Clay County, Iowa, doing an evaluation of a cornfield like this. Probably one of the better looking fields that we've got around this area, as are many this year here in 2020. Our growing season for the corn this year has been fantastic. As compared to the last couple of years, we've got the crop in at a decent time. The vast majority of it got in April. We've had actually very good growing conditions to this point in time. Could use a little bit of moisture, but right now is about the time that our corn crop is actually starting to silk and tassel, starting to fill that ear with the potential that we could have for some really good yields in the next coming months. So a lot of the responsibility that goes to filling that ear actually comes from a lot of the leaves that we've got above that ear shoot. As you can tell in this case right here, we do have the ear shoot coming back out. It does have a nice tassel to it, or a nice silk. Right here we're seeing the tassel. We are throwing some pollen right on here, and the yield potential on this one looks really good. We don't have any disease issues, no damage to the corn plant at all, so I would say that our overall potential of this corn plant looks really good. Here's a look at the ear formation that we've got on here. Not quite filled yet with the pollen to go ahead and incorporate every one of the kernels, but we're getting very close to that. Our conditions today are probably going to be in the mid 80s, so I think just absolutely beautiful conditions for filling that ear and for pollinating. So one of the questions that I've got, what would happen if we were to take away some of the top leaves that we've got to damage them to some point? How would that affect yield? To that point, we actually had a pretty severe storm that came through here this last Saturday. Just a few miles away from here, we had some hail that was probably in that golf ball size range for about 15 minutes. Luckily, this field right here was spared, but in the cases where it did get some of the hail damage, some of those yields are very diminished. We'll get back onto that. We'll try and evaluate some of the hail damage on those fields here shortly. But like I'd mentioned before, this plant right here and all the other plants in this field escaped some of the hail injury. The leaves themselves right now look very good, about 100% of the yield potential of this field. Let's switch gears here a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and take you to a couple of the fields over here that weren't so lucky. I'll start out with moderate damage, and then we'll look at some of the severe damage here in a little bit. Okay, I just switched back over to a field, as you can see, that actually did receive a little bit of hail damage. You can kind of tell that some of the plants itself are actually broken off. I don't think the stand is reduced to the extent that it's actually going to affect yield that much, but you can see that we do have some stripping on the leaves, a little bit of defoliation as we go through. In this case, I think this field right here actually escaped the vast majority of the damage that could have been projected from this storm. This one right here, I would say maybe a 10% decrease in overall yield potential. We do have some plants that, as you can tell, that are snapped off, but for the most part, we still have some fairly decent yield potential in this one. So the only recommendation that I would have for the grower would to continue to monitor the plant health late season on this field, just to see if there are any diseases that might set in, and if possible, go ahead and schedule this one for a little bit earlier harvest. I will take you about a quarter mile down the road to the epicenter of where the hail hit. All right, you're looking at one of the cornfields right near the other two that actually did suffer some of the worst damage from this storm. This field was just about ready to pollinate as well when the storm came through last Saturday. Now, as you can tell, there's not a whole lot left to it. Very little as far as stalk quality. There are very few tassels and even fewer ear shoots for the potential of trying to get any kind of yield. So I know for a fact that the hail damage was somewhat severe. My house is actually just over here about a quarter mile away, and we did suffer some damage to the house, shingles and siding as well. You know, we all realize that growing a corn crop is risky. Any farming is risky back out here. We all take a chance on trying to do our best to maintain top end yield potential, but sometimes Mother Nature is just not going to be very cooperative. This field in itself, there's not going to be much left out here. At least some of the other fields that did have minimal damage, we can still go ahead and try to get a crop back off of that. But the worst thing that, or probably the best thing that we can do is look forward to 2021, make some plans on there to maximize our overall yield potential, and we'll just start over. Once again, I'm Ron Beyer, Golden Harvest Agronomist. Good growing.